Hello and welcome to That Scroll Speaks. Today is Wednesday before Christmas and this is episode 235. I'm Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. How are you? It's kind of crazy, right? Feeling the holiday crunch? I am a little bit. I usually try not to, but this year I'm feeling it a little bit. Not like a lot of it, but like I have a lot of socks to finish. And I do feel a little bit of pressure. Mostly because I want to knit everything else in the world. But anyway, let's get into it. First of all, I'm going to do shameless self-promotion. I usually do save that till the end, but it's just a little bit and let's just get it done and over with. And then I'll talk about all the other things. Okay. First off, Patreon and PayPal donators. I know I've been telling you that you're going to get a prize for this quarter, but you might be like, I totally have your prizes now and I can show you. Right. So if you donated to the podcast via PayPal or Patreon in the fourth quarter of 2018, next podcast, so the first podcast of January, next regular podcast, I will draw 3 winners for a 2019 tea towel. What? Now, I did not do these for the shop this year. I only did them for you. But if you really want one, A, you can donate to the podcast and try to win one. Or B, you can go on Spoonflower and you can find this specific design if you type in the search bar woolly with 2 L's, W-O-O-L-L-Y. And the word and, so like type woolly, type and, type 2019. So those 3 words in your search bar will get you this straight away. And there is an English and a Welsh version, so just be aware. It's very clearly stated which is which, but just in case. So yeah. And so you get that, if you get that printed on a fat quarter of cotton linen, that's how it'll come to you, and then you just have to hem the edges. Ta-da! So there's that, yay. So I will draw those on the next regular podcast. Okay. And then, shameless self-promotion part 2, I am going to be doing a pre-order starting January 1st. So I'm hoping to do some pre-orders in the new year. I have plans right now for 3 in my head. We'll see how it goes in real life. But the first one is going to open January 1st. And now pre-orders from me, I get printed fabric. So the fabric takes sometimes 2 weeks to get to me. So the ship date is usually 4 to 6 weeks. I know that's a long window. I apologize because it's the only way I can make it work. So, full disclosure. But January 1st, and I'll do it at 9 a.m. because hopefully I'll be awake by then. We actually do a New Year's Eve thing, so sometimes, But January 1st, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, I'll open pre-orders, and it will be a generous pre-order. It won't be completely open because there are freakish things that could happen, and I don't want to get more orders than I can complete in that window. But it will be a very generous pre-order, so there should be no need to rush or set alarms or things, but January 1st. So a lot of people saw this bag at Needles Up in New York and wanted one, and they couldn't get one because they weren't there. So I have some that I'm doing as a pre-order. So you can see I have it in the Aran sweater. That's this guy, and that is a big bag. That's a bag that will hold any sweater that I've ever made for myself, and I'm a big lady, so it has pretty much like a 7-inch gusset. It's a big bag. I'll have it in that size. I'll have it in sweater size. And this is great if you're doing like one of these crazy 5 skein shawls or like a big fade, but it's also great for regular sweaters like even in my size, I can do like a fingering weight or sport weight sweater in this size bag. So, da-da-da. And then I'm also doing it, these were not available at New York Sheep and Wool. In fact, at Needles Up in Rhinebeck. Only the Aran sweater was. So this sweater and then this large wedge size are new for us for the pre-order. Now you'll notice it's the same print, but it's a smaller scale and it is on a cotton linen. So you can see the denim of the heavier bags takes the dye differently. It's more muted, but I actually really like it. It gives it that soft black, which I think is like a very dreamy quality in this print. But this is a little bit more saturated in the cotton linen, if that's your jam. So it's still that warm black, but it's just a little bit more intense. And in fact, I was secretly going to try to do, well, not secretly now. I was totally going to try to do this crazy print, the big one, in velvet too. I had bought the yardage and I tried, it was like super crazy looking in velvet, like full on, I don't want to say 70s couch, but that comes to mind, but it could be cooler. Anyway, it's super saturated, like black, television black, like fancy. But the velvet is a pain. I'm not doing it. The velvet just does not lend itself to this kind of sewing. So I thought I would try it, and it looked really fun. I mean, it was kind of crazy, but fun in a crazy way. But yeah, it's just wild how the difference, it's just like in yarns, we know that they're, yarns take dye very differently depending on the base. But so yeah, so we have those are all going up January 1st, 4 to 6 weeks. Usually I try to get it in there 4, but I like to give it a little window because you never know. I'm a one-woman show. You never know when like life is going to happen and like shoulders are going to decide they don't want to work or things like that. Okay, now that's all the administrative stuff. Let's just talk about knitting, not spinning, because I haven't done any. My wheel's right there. Everything's right there. But let's talk about knitting and spinning. Actually, let's talk about, I'm a liar. I'm lying a lie. Let's not talk about knitting and spinning. Let's talk about the other things I've been doing. So let's talk about some sewing and some needle felting. Okay, so my sewing story is a little sad. It's not super sad, it's just a little sad. Things are flying everywhere. Because a lot of my knitting this week is teensy tiny. Okay, so I've been wanting to I've been wanting to sew the Odessa. That's not right. I just like to hear my own voice and say words that are in no way useful to the discussion. I've been wanting to sew one of these like Japanese style aprons, like the open back cross thing. I've been wanting to sew one of those forever. I mean, really, for like 4 or 5 years. And I just hadn't found a pattern that I liked or that would even go close to my size. So I had kind of I just hadn't happened yet. But I purchased this pattern for the Elizabeth Shannon apron, and it comes in 2 lengths, like a tunic length and a dress length. It also comes in an open back and a closed back style. So the open back, which you see the back of the little drawing there, is that way, and then the closed back is just one straight piece with the same overall profile, which just, it doesn't have like an overlapping, like aprony kind of feel to it. So this still does not come up to my size. I think the largest, I think it comes up to like a size 20. It's not on this document. I think it's on the actual pattern itself. Oh, no, here it is. Yes, it comes up to a size 20, which is a 45, almost a 46-inch bust. So I had to scale it up. And I wanted to make it in flannel because I thought that would be really fun for winter. And I did. But it did not go so well. So here is my little pinafore kind of thing. Okay. However, I did the open back style and it just would not even, I like physically couldn't even make it work on my body. Like I could not figure out how to get it to be on my body. Because I think because of my size, the extra fabric, and then probably also the fact that it's a flannel, so it doesn't exactly, it has more tooth. It wants to stick to your undergarments more, like you have to wear a shirt under it, unless you're super bold, which I'm not quite that bold. But it wants to stick to everything because it's flannel. So the combination of like the extra fabric, the open back, it was just like like it was like trying to wear Jello. It was just not work. And that's not at all the pattern's fault. Again, I had to scale up the pattern like 2 sizes to fit me, or 3. I don't remember anymore. So it's not the pattern's fault. It was that. But it just didn't, and I have never tried to wear anything with that kind of style, that profile of the open. And while my body enjoys less structure in the form of no bras during the day, not when I leave the house, shush up, apparently it does need a little structure in clothing. Just a little bit. So what I ended up doing, this is not an ideal fix at all. And oh, and by the way, you can also sew it. It also has this optional tie, which I did do because I thought it might help to anchor it in a little bit. You can see it on the little yellow dress there with the orangish hair. Yeah, that's orange hair. So I did do the tie as well, even with the tie. It was just not happening. So what I have done is actually, so this is the back, okay? What I had to do was actually sew, there's a facing that goes, so like this is the front, this is the wrong side of the front. So there's a facing, and you can see it down here. So there's a facing similarly for the back pieces. So what I did was I stitched the back pieces together around that. So it's still open at the bottom. Like this part still is open, but it actually would stay on my body. Because otherwise this part was just like flapping. It was like falling. It was crazy. It's just, I think it's just too much distance for it to hold together. It was just nuts. So I'm still deciding whether or not I would want to do this again. However, I definitely would not do the open back again. Unless I was doing maybe gauze or something, and then I would have to really rethink, because basically, because I sewed these together, this is now very thick because it's an exterior piece and a facing for 2 pieces. So this is now 4 layers of flannel thick, which is fine because it was an experimental one and I just planned on wearing it in the winter. It doesn't matter as much because I'm gonna wear a cardigan over it anyway. So I'm not too concerned about it, but I would need to kind of re-engineer how that would work for a summer garment so that it wouldn't have that additional bulk. But again, it is also available in a closed back, so you can just have one piece. I liked the idea of the open back because I have larger hips proportionately. I thought it would give me a little bit of like give, essentially, with a woven fabric for like sitting and things like that, or stretching and things like that. I thought it would just give me a little bit of extra give so that my garment would not have to have a wider profile, but would still have some flexibility. And so it still does that in this form. So there is still a positive aspect to it, but I don't know that I would do it again. I'm not sure. I have not worn this garment for more than trying on and being like, and so that's another thing I need to do, is actually wear it probably for a full day and determine like how it's actually working for me. But that said, one thing I did really like about this pattern are the pockets. Look at how cute those pockets are. So even if I, and I think I would still make it again, but again, maybe with a closed back. Excuse me. But even if I don't make it again, I think I will totally franken this pocket onto like a dress number 1. It just has this angle, which I think is cute, and it sews into the side seam. So one edge of it sews into the side seam, which I also really like, just in terms of like placement. It's easier to place it, like you don't just like feel like you're placing it into the ether on the front of a giant garment. Excuse me. But also I like the way it looks. I think it looks really cute and snappy. So yeah, and there are 2 pocket options on this one. There is this pocket, which is the only pocket available for the tunic length. And there's also what she calls a peekaboo pocket, or like a pocket that's literally in the side seam for the dress length. So The pattern was very easy to follow. I did do it a printed home version. So I glued, didn't glue. I taped all of the pattern pieces together and then traced them off because I was scaling it up. Traced them off onto like Japanese tracing paper, and that worked really well. The pattern was very easy to follow, so I highly recommend it. And she has other patterns that's kind of a similar silhouette. So I did actually like the pattern. The other thing I needed to do too, this happens a lot when you're a plus size person, you're scaling things up. Lots of times the shoulders get scaled wider and wider and wider. And I was afraid of that on the front. The front placement of the straps is really good. It works out actually quite well. But where the back straps were supposed to go was like over here because they're on the edge of this open back. And that did not work. They were kind of like doing this in the back. So I did move them in to try to, which might have also been why the back pieces kind of felt like they were flapping around because they were just set a little bit too wide apart for my frame. Again, my frame is deeper this way than it proportionally is this way. So that might have been part of the problem of it feeling like it just wasn't going to sit on my body in any sort of reasonable way. It's not common that you try something on as an adult and you're like literally like, I don't know how this works. It's like I'm a teenager with a cummerbund going to prom. Like I was just like, what is this? And how do I put it on my body? That said, it was a totally enjoyable sewing experience. And I think I will, again, I need to wait. I need to wear it and then I will come back and tell you how I feel about how it fit. Okay. Then also in non-sewing things I did. This is the only listed one. I bought this kit at Rhinebeck this year at New York Sheep and Wool. It is the Rhinebeck Gnome. It's the 2018 limited edition Rhinebeck Gnome from Going Gnome. I have purchased other kits from her. They are always great. Little bit less direction than I, as a left-brain person, would enjoy. Oh, Annie, this is really not the time to come visit. Let me move some things for you. You're going to sit on all the things I need to show people. Yeah, that's the thing that I need to show. Here, let me have this one thing, and then, there you go. Now you're good. Now you can lay down. Good job. Good girl. There you go. Sorry. Other thing. There's always less pictures than I really want to have because I am not a creative. I know you're going to be like, you create stuff all the time. I like to, if I were a poet, I would write sonnets. Like I like to create within parameters, you know? You know what I mean? So I always want more pictures, but that's not necessarily something somebody else would need. But it always has way more wool than I need. It comes with needles. And so you need to have this or something like it is the only thing you need in addition to the kit itself. So this is just something to felt onto so that you don't stab like a hard surface or something like that. I do also have this little felting needle. This is made by Clover. They make that green one too, but this one it's 3 needles, but it's a little bit finer. I have that green one, but I don't know where it is. I would have used it probably. So here's my gnome so far. So you make him all in white and then you put on his clothes and stuff. Do you see his booty? He's supposed to be shearing a sheep. So that she has him kind of like more muscular looking, which I think is super cute. There you go. There you go. Do I need to add the PG-13 rating to this podcast for felt butts? Anyway. So I just thought I'd show you where I was at with him. He's super cute. So that's what he's gonna look like eventually. So yay that. Oh, and I have his little arms too, but I haven't attached them yet. Every time I start to needle felt again, I'm like, oh, I actually really enjoy this. I am, by the way, I am not like a sculptural person. Like I can't turn clay into something. Like I've never been a person who feels like she can relate three-dimensional space into a three-dimensional representation of that. Like that doesn't work for my brain. But this, so I think I get like intimidated by it every time, which is dumb. But this is somehow, I don't know if it's the speed of it or if it's the comfort of the wool and like a familiar medium that you do feel good about. And again, I feel like it's just very energy absorbent. Like, does that make sense? Like all things wool are good, right? Like, so I don't know if it's that or if it's just, again, that it's a slower process or that it's like, I don't know what it is. You're building things up and also taking them down. So it's not like it's not specifically additive or subtractive. I don't know. But it's always enjoyable. And now I'm like, I need to felt 37 mushroom ornaments and then also 47 felted mushroom stitch markers. And then next year I need to get a garland that I can only hang felted mushrooms from. And they're all going to be handmade. Blah, 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 blah. All right. Which is a perfect transition to talk about all the ornaments I've been knitting. Usually I actually don't knit ornaments. I don't know why. I'm kind of like resistant to knitted ornaments. I love the way they look, but let's face it, they're fiddly. Okay, you can't get around it. There are two, and let me just also specify that they're fiddly because they're a very few number of stitches, often in fingering weight wool on double points. Not because, like, there are certain patterns that are written to be, like, I don't think their goal is to be fiddly, but the pattern itself is fiddly. And then on top of that, you're working with tiny little things and so everything I made was fiddly if it's on figure weight, just because it was tiny, but not because the pattern was fiddly. Okay. Let's talk about things you've already seen before. So last time I showed you my Christmas tree ornaments, which is a pattern by Elizabeth Murphy. So I made two more. I didn't bring that. I should have brought the other one over. And these I actually I cast on 8 fewer stitches than is written in the pattern because I wanted some that were just a little bit smaller. So this one is Hazelnut's Artisan Sock held double. And this one is, you know, what's that yarn that I can never remember? Brooklyn Tweed Loft held double. It's got one skein of a green and then one skein of sap. And so then you put a little cinnamon stick in there. So cute. So this one I made for a friend who has little people. So I did glue her cinnamon stick in. You're supposed to actually stitch through the cinnamon stick with a needle. I didn't have a sharp needle handy. Oh my gosh, why is there stuff everywhere? So the other one, the first one I made, I literally just like wrapped the yarn around it and it was snug enough as I was stitching together this bottom bit that I didn't feel like I needed that. But she's little people, so I was afraid they might try to tug it out just for curiosity. So I did just use some glue and glued hers in, but so cute. So I think what I'd also like to do is make one more and maybe do the same, I don't know, maybe do the original cast on, but do less or more frequent decreases so that we have a different angle. So it's more like whoop instead of whoop. But I think they're super cute. And these are, again, this is like a worsted weight one. So this is a very good, you do have to purl in the round, but it's only like, you know, a teeny amount of stitches. So it's okay. And this is a cute little easy deasy pattern. So yay that. So there's 2 of those. And then I was gifted the pattern Mochi Mochi Snowmen. Right. How stinking cute is that stupid thing? Now this one really was not even that fiddly though, because it's, you know, the pieces are, you know, even though it's fingering weight and you're working on double points, the circumference isn't really that small except for right when you start and right when you end. So I could totally see making a ton of these little dudes. Give them all in little fingering, little scarves. For all your scrappy scraps. So cute. And then you just embroider his eyes on and his little hands. Let me just discuss too though, his little eyes, I was able to get them to look a little bit rounder because originally you're just doing 2 stitches, like 2 horizontal stitches. And he looked a little scowly. To be honest, he made me a little bit uncomfortable. He really did. But then I put a vertical stitch over top of them and I think that helped him look a little bit more friendly. He still looks a little grumpy, I'm not gonna lie. But I dig him. He's pretty darn cute. And then the final one, Miss Susan B. Anderson released her Long Johns pattern. What? So it is written for her, I think it's written for her home. So that's not the Wisconsin woolen, but her other yarn, which is really wonderful. But it's a smoother yarn. It's a worsted spun yarn. And the jam colorway is a great colorway. But I didn't have any of that one. So this is, yet again, this is Brooklyn Tweed's Loft. And I want to say this is Long John's colorway, even though I'm not sure it is. It is now in my head. So, So there's the front. And then, of course, the back is what makes it. Right. Shut up. Look how cute that is. So this dude was fiddly. It was not hard at all. But it was fiddly because as you can imagine, the arms and the legs are, 10, 12 stitches for me. Now these I think I knit on 1s or 1.5s. But still it's a bit fiddly, but totally worth it. So cute. The pattern is written for you to use 6/0 beads for the little, which I do think would be super cute. I just didn't have any. And I actually may even still... No, I'll leave them with my imperfect colonial knots. But I think the seed beads would be super cute and would be easier to do. The colonial knots are kind of hard to do because this is like, you kind of reach inside this little tiny thing to do the knots. It's like a little bit awkward. So I do recommend using seed beads if you have access to them. I just didn't want to leave the house before I talked to you. So I just did the little colonial knots. But how cute is that? If you don't know what a colonial knot is, it's like a French knot, only slightly different. I find them to be easier to do than French knots, or maybe not easier to do, but I'm more successful at doing them than French knots. So yeah, right. How cute is that? One more time. One more time. Is it so cute? Anyway, oh, and so if you buy the kit from Susan, you get her yarn, and then you also get little tiny hangers. Luckily, the loft is, at that gauge, is firm enough that it'll just stand on its own. But super cute, right? Now it feels like the rest of the stuff I'm going to show you is just a letdown. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot a sweater. It's not done. Just a second, I'll be right back. Okay, so other things you have seen before. I finished my handbrake cowl, which is by Kay Jones. And this is a skein of Another Crafty Girl held double. So it's like her strong sock held double. So this is a great gift knit. I mean, now it's a little late, but whatever. You can still do it. So cause you can use worsted weight, or you can just use a skein of finger wool held double. Okay. So, and it's a very functional little thing. Like, people who don't understand the long cowls will usually understand this cowl. And they're really nice. Like, if you're just, again, for under a coat or whatever, you don't have all that extra bulk in your chest. And so it's easy to throw on. I use them a lot when I am just working from home, where my sewing machine is right next to the front door, which is 100 years old and a little drafty. Just a little. It's so crafty. So it's just like a little extra layer of warmth that you don't have to fiddle with to keep on or what have you. So yeah, and it's a very enjoyable knit, very easy. Meow. So again, that is Handbrake Cowl. by Kay Jones, and this is another Crafty Girl. Strong Sport held double. What? The colorway name is Friends That Inspire Us. Right. Super cute. And then I finished Annie's sweater. So this is the... I don't know why I'm having so much... By the way, if you're like, why are you in this place again? It's winter, y'all. Like, I saw the good light in the front room, and I was like, oh, I gotta record. And by the time I got stuff together, the light was already gone. It's winter. So this is the perfect fit top-down dog sweater by Traveling Tree Designs, and it is available on Ravelry. And right? How cute did that turn out? So I did use every color that came in that 21 color mitten kit. I'm sorry, I think it's Blue Sky fibers. I'm not sure, but then it'll be in the show notes, which you can find at thefatsquirrel.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can find it underneath the video. But how cute did that turn out? I would put Annie in it, but she doesn't really like it. Annie! Okay, so she sensed that I was going to put the sweater on her, and so she refused to come here. She's not having it. But it looks really cute on her. So yeah, so that's that. The pattern is not written for ribbed. It's just written as it's a formula, basically, that you can use whatever pattern design you want, any texture that you want. So yeah, you know, I just do the rib because I just feel like it works well for dog sweaters. Isn't it cute? So, oh, and I did make a little harness leash hole. But yeah, so that's it. Super cute. So there's that. And then, the only other thing I have to show you, I purchased this yarn. Ooh, it's reading a little bit warmer in color. But I purchased this yarn at New York Sheep and Wool this year. It's Bartlett Yarns in the terracotta colorway. And this is a sport weight. And so I am knitting an after party sweater. So this is the sleeve, which I finished, and now I have to knit a million socks, so I can't work on it right now. That's all I want to do. But it is from Lane Magazine #6, and I purchased this from the Woolly Thistle. Oh, I'm going to that instead of that. Meow. And I don't normally purchase a pattern book for one pattern. By the way, look, this is kind of fun. Isolde's in an ad wearing her sweater that I am also currently wearing. That's right. What's this one called, Isolde? I don't think she has it listed. I can't remember either. Stroker. That's what it's called. Thanks, Isolde. So this is the After Party, which is a pattern by Astrid Trolland. And there's just something about the sweater that I was very drawn to. I think it's because it's just the one contrast color in the yoke for the color work, and it's also not a bold motif. Most of the ones I've been doing have been fairly bold, and this is a very simple, almost lacy color work effect. Right? Doesn't it look like a doily or something? So you can probably see the color I have as my contrast color is this kind of wheat. It'd be interesting to see how that shows up in editing. But anyway. So I did the sleeve first. I'm not typically one to do sleeves first, but this is a bottom up sweater, and so I really wanted to make sure my gauge was correct. And the sleeve is the best way to do that because a gauge swatch will only tell you so much, especially one for knitting in the round. Like I do the knitting in the round swatch where you knit it flat, but you have the loops around the back. So you're only knitting and then you just, neither here nor there. Although swatch is never exactly right. So I'll do both of the sleeves before I do the actual body cast on, in all likelihood, just to make sure I've got a good idea of how many million stitches I have to cast on. The pattern is written for fingering weight. Even though this is technically listed as a sport weight, there is quite a bit of variation in their sport weight yarns at Bartlett. And this is a lighter one. Like I can tell definitely with knitting, the wheat color is significantly heavier in weight. So this is knitting up at a fingering weight gauge or pretty close to it. And again, we'll just see as we get done what the comparison is. That's right, kids. The comparison. And so then the last thing I have to show you is a bunch of socks. Well, not a bunch. Less than I would like to be showing you. So I got some more sock tubes cranked from Freckled Whimsy. And if you don't know who that, she does do self-striping, which is super cute. I've never had any of her self-striping, but it looks awesome. But she also has a sock tube knitting service. So you send her yarn, she cranks it into a tube. She has 64 and 72 stitch cylinders, and she has, I think she can do like 7 to 9 stitches an inch, I think. Obviously, check our website. I don't know. But I had some tubes cranked for my holiday knitting. So I have some socks. So these are not done yet. These are in progress. This is Hazelknit's Artisan Sock in the, oh no, I know it. No, I'm sorry. I'm a liar and I lie. This is Diabolical. This is her Tarhi base, which I really like, the Tarhi nylon. And this is Polar Vortex. So it's just a nice gray, a little bit bluish gray. So those I'm working on, I have a heel going. I have toes and cuffs done on both of those, but I still have heels to do. Heels to do before I sleep. I finished this pair. This is Paint Box Stripes, and this is the rainbow colorway. That was Amazon telling me they've delivered my packages. Thanks, Amazon. And then I really like this sock yarn. This is Regia in the Color Mania colorway 4066. I really like this. It's a 3-ply sock yarn where each of the 3 plies is a different color. And I really liked this one quite a bit. I would sound strange to say this, but I could totally make a sweater out of this. Like, I really enjoyed it. Be a great, super hard wearing sweater. Stop thinking about it. You have enough sweaters in the queue. Stop it. So there's those. Again, these are all Afterthought heels a la Laura Linneman. And then I have these. This is yarn from Friends in Fiber. And I apologize, I don't know what the colorway is anymore. But that's pretty fun, right? These ones turned out super long. It's really fun too, like, because I usually tell her to knit like 75 grams or 80 grams. It's usually 75 grams, I think. And it's amazing to see the difference in the length of 75 grams. This is a very lightweight yarn. And so, like, look, it's significant. Whatever. That's not entirely true, because these I actually added toes and added heel or cuffs, whereas I got a little bit lazy. And instead of just adding on the cuff, I actually ripped back the rows and then knit the cuff from that, so I would have less ends to weave in. The worst. It's totally what I'm doing from now on, though. It's so much easier. Okay, so that's it. I feel like that was a lot of me talking. So, things are coming up. Pre-order, January 1st. Next week I plan to work on is percolating my mental approach to knitting sweaters. So that will work if you've ever been like, do I really want to knit a sweater myself? Hopefully that will be helpful to you. I plan on releasing that next week. I'm very nervous about it. And then, yeah, and then I'll see you again in January. I'll do prizes for PayPal and Patreon donors. And then we'll be off to 2019, y'all. Right. So again, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the podcast, this is the Stroker sweater. This is also Bartlett yarns. And some piece fleece. And some other random junk. I don't even know. I forgot to mention that earlier, sorry. Anyway, I hope you have a great holiday, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.